Apologies. Welcome to tonight's session about becoming an MIEE. I'm going to share my screen and do a presentation to talk you through this, and I'll explain a wee bit more about the session. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. There we go. So tonight's session, as I say, about MIE nominations, and the nomination window for Britain opens twice a year in June and in November. And obviously there's quite a tight timeline there because we're a week into the nomination window already. I'm going to talk you through what you need to do. So tonight I'm going to be joined by Sarah Clark, who is going to be here in maybe about 20 minutes or so to discuss this with me, and there's our details there. You can see both Twitter names there, and if you've got any questions you can ask them in the chat or tag any of us in Twitter, including Tablet Academy Scotland. So what is a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert? These are the kind of things that Microsoft are looking for in a person. And you'll see that a lot of it is to do with collaboration and community. It's a very, very good professional learning community. I've been in it for a number of years, as has Sarah, and it's a very good place to ask questions, to share your knowledge as well. And the bit at the end there, MIE experts get back what they put into the programme. That's very, very true. We've got a team, a Scottish team, as in a Microsoft team, and we've also got a UK team. We have UK meetings once a month, and we have Scottish meetings about every 2 months. The team is very active as well. There's lots of questions going on, lots of support, and we also we've managed to meet face-to-face twice this year. Now, well, COVID's not away, but it's not as bad as it was. So we've met twice face-to-face, and during these sessions we always have a sort of teach-meet style where people come up and tell us what they've been doing in the class with various Microsoft tools. So if that sounds like you, then you're the right type of person that we're looking for to be an MIEE. How to become an expert? You need to achieve both these badges, and also you need to complete an application. Now, the badges, the chances are that you've already got these badges, or you've completed courses. You may not be aware you've got the badges, but you'll have completed the courses in order to gain the badges. That's the timeline there. The nominations have been open since the 15th of November, and all the submissions are due by the 15th of December. Now, you'll notice the wee red star there. If you don't pass this section, there's a part where it asks you questions and they're auto-scored. You'll be told, and then you have to cancel your nomination and create a new nomination to resubmit. Now, that means that you have to keep a note of everything that you put in. You need to keep a note of the text that you put in and all the different parts that you fill in. It's a good idea to keep that in case you have to put a new nomination in, and you would find out in February if you were successful. Applications can be completed over a period of time. You don't have to complete it all at the one time. You can save your progress, and there's a document that gives you all the questions, which we're going to have a wee look at in a minute or two. These are the courses that are required for the Microsoft Educator badge. There are 6 modules there, and as you see, it says 5 hours and 27 minutes. The chances are that it wouldn't take you as long as that to do these courses, and it may be that you've already got them. These courses are common to both badges, to the educator and advanced educator, so you'll find that there's 1 less or 2 less rather to do in the advanced educator. The advanced educator has 2 learning paths: the Master Microsoft Teams and the 21st Century Learning Design. And again, these are 8 modules, and there's the time there that they reckon it would take you to complete them. The 21st Century Learning Design, they will accept the pre-22 pathway. If you've already achieved this before 22, it changed this year. It's not actually, content's not changed. it's the way it's been presented and so on. It's a different presenter, so they will accept the pre-22 2022 pathway, and these are the different courses that are in the 21st Century Learning Design. Master Microsoft Teams, these are the courses here. As I said earlier on, 2 of them are already in your the educator badge. So now on to the application. So if you've got the Microsoft Educator and the Microsoft Advanced Educator badge, then you would start to complete your application. This is Microsoft Learn here, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with, and you need to go into the Educator Centre and to Educator Programmes, and then down to Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert, and we've put the link. The link will be in the stream to this within the Learn Centre. It's everything's all together now. Microsoft have pulled everything all together into the one website, so it should be fairly straightforward to find that. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll find out how to join the programme, and the bit that I've highlighted is the questions, the MIE questions, which we're going to have a wee look at in a minute or two. So there's some information there and about the application, and then you would click the Nominate Yourself button. You then get taken to this page and you would click there to register or to sign in. If you've already signed in, then you would click there, and that takes you to this page. Now, a wee word of warning about this. If you have a personal Microsoft account, then you would use the second button there. If you've got a work or school account, if you've got a Glow account, then you could use the third button down. Now, please be aware that now if you have a Glow account and you move to a different authority, then you will lose your Glow account. It used to be you could take your Glow account anywhere all over Scotland. Now it is, if you move to a different authority, you lose it and you would get a new one. So just be careful with this, that if you do plan to possibly that you're going to move on at some point, please be aware that if you register there, then you would have to change that email address later on. So just be careful that you're not using an address that you're going to lose, and then you wouldn't get access to that website. There are 2 things that you need from Learn. You need your profile URL, and where you would find that is if you go into Learn, log into Learn, and you would go to Settings, and you will find your URL is here, username and URL. Now, I actually tried this the other day, and I copied and pasted that whole line, and all it gave me was the first part of the URL, and it gave me an empty box. So I would copy this part here, copy the URL, paste it somewhere, and then copy what's inside the box and add it to the beginning of the URL. And you will need that in your application. The other URL you will need is your transcript URL. You've got to share that with Microsoft. And the way to find that is if you go into your profile and go into transcript, your transcript's there, and there's a share link been pointed out there. You would copy the share link for your Learn transcript. It used to be that you had to download your transcript and put it somewhere like OneDrive and share it publicly with them, but it's a bit easier now that we share the link from the Learn website. So if you click share link, you'll get that there. You can see the link down here, and you would just copy the link. So there are some questions. Phase 1 in this are questions about you. Now, where it says educator, it does not mean teacher. It refers to, this confused people a couple of years ago. It means anybody who is working with either children or adults. I'm not a teacher, I'm a development officer, and I do a lot of training with staff. So I'm an educator, so anyone at all who supports teaching and learning. One thing to note is that the information is not used for marketing purposes. None of the information would go into the marketing department, so you don't need to worry about that. And basically the reason for this is to allow Microsoft to know who you are. If you use other tools and devices, and they're looking for you to use at least 2 of the Microsoft tools, and also looking at, are you a member of other communities, say for example, a Google Educator and so on. And that section does not impact your nomination in any way at all. It has no impact whatsoever. It's purely personal information about you, and they will not take any of that into account when they are scoring. The second section are machine scored questions. These are questions about, we'll have a wee look at them in a minute or two. You need a 70% pass rate to continue. And as I said earlier on, it's best to submit before December the 15th so that you can resubmit if your nomination doesn't pass that particular phase. So let's have a wee look at the questions. Got them here on a Microsoft, on a Word document, and there's some information up here at the top about the application, but basically that's what it looks like. So it's asking your name, your email address, your home address, your organisation address or school and institution, their website if there is one. If there isn't, you would leave it blank, and then what is your title. So you can check all that apply there as to what you are, or if it's other, then you would fill in what your job role is does not fit in anywhere else, you can add it into the bottom there. You're asked if your school is a showcase school or an incubator school, or neither. Then you would be able to complete that. If you are a showcase or an incubator school, then as it says there, there'll be a drop down of the schools and you would select whichever one yours is. You're then asked what age range you teach. So all age ranges, it's not just the one. And then what subjects that you teach. And again, there's an option for other if your subject does not appear there. You're then asked about your students and learners' access to the internet at school and home. And then what kind of technology do they use in school for their learning? And again, you can check more than one, you can tick more than one type of device there. If you've got social media accounts, then you can share your handles there. Now, this is one where I would think carefully about what you've got, because I've got Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook and Instagram are my private accounts. They're not anything to do with work. They're for my private life. Therefore, I am not going to give them to Microsoft. The only one that's relevant there out of the three of them is my Twitter handle, which is a professional account. I've also got a blog. So if you're using YouTube, for example, or other, and you're on LinkedIn and so on, then you can put those handles there. And then you're asked how many followers you've got on Twitter. Again, that's not going to go against you. Some people may only have 50. You might work in a very small primary school and you'd maybe only get 50 followers. Other people may have hundreds or even thousands of followers, but please do not be concerned about that. What tools or devices do you use regularly? Again, if you're using more than one or two there, then you would tick whatever you are using. And what kind of devices does your school use? The next part refers to other EdTech communities that you're a member of. Now, again, please don't worry about this, because the only one out of all of those ones, I think I am a Google certified trainer. I'm not in any of the other. I'm not an ambassador for any other. I'm a WeClick community leader, I think. But I'm certainly not an ambassador, so please don't worry about that and think, oh, you can hardly tick anything there. It may be that you can't tick anything at all, but it's just, again, excuse me, it's so that they know what you do as far as technology is concerned. You're then asked if you've completed the Educator Academy, and also have you done the Master Microsoft Teams in the 21st Century Learning Design, which would obviously give you the Microsoft Educator and Advanced Educator badges. And this is where you would paste your URLs in here. So you've got your achievements and then you've got your transcript URL that you can put into the form there. Okay, so the next part is the machine learning scored questions. So anything that's we've talked about there, that does not impact in your application at all. But now we are on to the machine learning scored questions. So how many modules have you completed and learned? Possibly most people would be putting 26 or more for that. And then it's asking you how often you do these various different things. Again, please don't worry about for example, use Flip with learners. I have never used that because in our authority, we are not allowed to use Flip. And it may be that that's the case with your authority as well, that you don't have access to these things. So be very honest there. If you use something rarely, choose rarely. But as I say, for Flip, for me personally, I can say I've never used it. Also with Minecraft, I know a lot of authorities have got, well, some authorities have got Minecraft, a lot of them don't. Then you would have to be very honest there again and say that you don't do that. You're then asked about STEM resources. What do you use? Do you use Make, Code, Hacking STEM, and so on? Again, just whatever it is, if it's daily, weekly, monthly, daily, or never. You're then asked specifically about PowerPoint. What kind of features do you use with your learners? So again, you would tick whatever column applies to you. And then you're asked about the features of the Microsoft Edge browser. So again, you tick whatever applies to you. But just below that, there are two questions. One's about Flip live events. Again, I have to say 0 because I don't use it. And also Grid PAL connections for Flip. That would be 0 for me because we're not allowed to use it. The one thing that you have to remember with this Microsoft application is that, excuse me, I have a bit of a sore throat today.
Take over.
The one thing that you have to remember is Microsoft consider this as the full Office 365. And if you're using Glow, we don't have full Office 365 in Glow. There are certain restrictions on us. But you have to be honest there and say, whether you've used Flip or not. So then we're asked specific questions and you have to tick check all that apply. So tick all the statements that you think apply to using immersive reader and learning tools. Then it goes on to ask about accessibility checker. And then we've got questions about Teams. When would you use formative assessment? And then we have a question about forms. So you can see there's various questions covering various different aspects of Office 365. There's a question about OneNote, and then again, we've got a question about Teams. The last question here, the correct order for how to create breakout rooms. This is actually now changed. This question's actually out of date. That's the way that we used to create breakout rooms in Microsoft Teams. So you have to put them into the correct order. Now, as I said to you earlier on, if it's a good idea to keep a copy of your answers. If you downloaded that document, then you could put your answers onto that and then fill in the actual online form so that you've got a record of your answers. We're going to go back to our presentation. And the next part of the form is your long questions. Now, please note that these questions have a character limit of 500 minimum and maximum 2,000, and it's characters, it is not words. A lot of people were a bit kind of stunned by this when it came out at first because they thought it said 2,000 words. It's not, it's characters. And so again, a wee word of warning there is that when you are doing this, if you type your answers up into a Word document and copy and paste them into the form, then it's an online form and the characters are slightly different. The first time I did this particular application, when I went to look, I just went to check my answers and I noticed that the last couple of words had been chopped off. So my 2,000 characters in a Microsoft Word document were different from a 2,000 characters online. So just be aware of that. When you're answering these, go and check the end and make sure it's not chopped, because it will just chop. It's not selective, it just chops off whatever is over 2,000. And it means that your sentence might not make sense. You might have to remove a word or two from that. So, question 1. Do I hear Sarah there in the background?
Yes, I'm here in the background. Yes.
Yeah. Good. So Sarah's now joined us, which is great because she can support me with this bit and give her point of view as well, and some more tips, more than some other tips that I'm going to give you. So question 1, the long questions. How do you leverage the tools to increase accessibility? So basically it's looking for what tools you use and how do you support different learning needs. And again, just a wee reminder there, educators, not just teachers, it's school leaders and so on, trainers, and learners is anyone who is receiving instruction from you. So again, it could be adults, it could be pupils or colleagues. Sarah, I think I'm going to need considerable help here. I've got a sore throat. My throat keeps drying up here.
That's okay. We actually, I'm just back in from school, and we had a session tonight around our formal assessments, the prelims that are coming up soon. And a lot of it was around the additional support needs that our students are going to be getting. So actually, I was thinking for this kind of session, we do small group sessions where we show the kids, how to use Immersive Reader, how to use the other tools that they have access to within the assessments as well. And that's something that I would be putting in here as well. The fact that we do sessions with our staff and we do sessions with our pupils to make them aware of these tools that are there. You may not be in a classroom situation where you are working with pupils all the time, but you may be sharing those tools with teachers who are then working with pupils. So, that's something to bear in mind. And Ros, I take my hat off. You had made these wonderful slides. I had a wee look through them, but she was the one that sat down and put them all up. And essentially, they are looking for, how are you using Immersive Reader with your students? Read aloud, text to speech. I did dictation as well today. I actually had a one-to-one with a pupil who he said he struggles with his writing and the typing takes him a long time. And I actually showed him in Word how he can use the dictation feature, particularly when he's doing extended pieces of writing within English and history and those subjects. So we spent a bit of time looking at that today and him trying it out. Also things like live captions in meetings. If you are teaching, you can have PowerPoint translator there as well. You can have the live captions on PowerPoint. There's been a lot of chat on Twitter with people talking about they've got Ukrainian refugees into their classroom just now who speak, very little English, and people have been looking for ways that they can use these tools to ensure the pupils are included in the lessons. And a lot of people have started looking at, the translator app on the phone.
Yeah,
I've done this as well. I've sat down with one of our pupils and showed them how to do that, as well as being able to have the subtitles within PowerPoint. You can change it to any language, but you can also have it in English. So being able to, I'm talking at the board and what I'm saying is then coming up in English on subtitles for any pupils that maybe are hearing impaired, they're then still able to follow along what you're doing at the board as well. And as well as everything, I mean, Rose has put up there about accessibility checker, going into the settings within Windows device and looking at the ease of access center. Simple things like making your mouse a bit bigger, changing the color of the mouse, showing the students where color filters are on them and the magnifier. These are all things I think initially when people see that question, they go straight to Immersive Reader. Yeah, it's a fantastic tool, but you might then be thinking outside the box a little bit more too. We want to make sure that all our students can access the resources that we're putting out there. So we also, if we've got PowerPoints with audio on them, we convert them to video because we're not one-to-one, that our students are using a wide variety of devices, whether it's a laptop or a tablet or a phone. And it's just easier for them to do that if it's a video than having, maybe they don't have PowerPoint downloaded on their phone or they don't have the Office app on their phone. Kids' phones are very limited for space. So they tend to download an app that I ask them in class and then they offload the app when they're back home. So little things like that making sure that all your students are included, as well as the Immersive Reader and the dictate and the read aloud features that we've there. I actually had a student as well. I use OneNote as my whiteboard for all my PowerPoint slides, my inking over the top of it. You know, that's my whiteboard in class. And I had a student, I think it was maybe 2 years ago now, who was visually impaired, and she really struggled to see what I was writing on the board. So we gave her one of the devices in the classroom. Everything was going on to OneNote. She went onto the OneNote and she was able to follow along, because within about 10 seconds, any of the information that I was putting up on our OneNote, which the students were seeing as a whiteboard, she was able to see it right in front of her. And, you know, at the end of the year, I spoke to her about it, and I says, how, you know, what were the benefits of it? What were the drawbacks? And she did say sometimes it was a wee bit laggy. She says, but on the whole, I was able to follow along everything. Now, it might just be that you're making PowerPoints available in Teams that your student who maybe is visually impaired can then see them at any point. All students can see them at any point, but the students in class can follow along with them. That's ensuring accessibility to the learning within your class. So think about what you're doing and all the things that you're doing, and that might be what you want to talk about in that question.
Yeah, I think the Ease of Access Centre, an awful lot of people forget about that. In fact, somebody said to me the other day in a school, why is your mouse pointer, why is it big and purple? And I said, because I changed it, and they were not aware of that at all. And I've made it bigger because I do so much training, and it's actually easier for people if I've got a purple pointer that's quite big. You know, people can see that, but a lot of people don't realise that that's there, and it's that can be quite a game changer for people. Even things like the distractions, you can the focus assist. You can take out the distractions so you don't get anything. You can change your screen to black and white or grayscale as well. And for some people that might be important. It just colour screen might be it might overload their brain too much. So it's certainly it's something, again, maybe people don't think about that they're doing. They maybe know about it and they're telling pupils to use it, but they don't think about it as accessibility. But it's as important as all the other things. As you say, a lot of people tend to think immediately when you talk about accessibility, a lot of people immediately jump to immersive reader, but there are so many other things there that they can use. This is actually Amanda Pickard, who's one of the other fellows in Scotland, and I did a session for the last cohort, and this was a Mentimeter that we did, and we asked people to give some sort of suggestions of things that they did for accessibility. And these are just some of the things that they said that they did in order to make. And there's, again, two things that are fairly simple, are emojis and GIFs. You know, it's using emojis to explain something, you know, or GIFs and so on. It's just something, again, that a lot of people don't think about, that maybe they're not thinking they're using it for accessibility, but it is something that's really important there.
Yeah, and you know, even just the text size as well, and looking at the text font that's there. Is it one that's just like friendly, in that it's easier for people to read? So little things like that, I think we forget about them because we do them so often, and I think it's just a case of making sure that when you're doing that, you're aware of everything that you're doing, because you will be doing a lot more than you probably think you are.
Yep. Okay, so the next question is about 21st century learning design. So there's the different parts of it down at the bottom right-hand side there. So what have you done? What kind of project have you done with your learners that incorporates that technology to improve their learning outcomes? What skills were included? And they're not looking, again, we've got 2,000 characters. I know when I did this initially, I think I concentrated on 2 only, because there's no way you can talk about all of them within the 2,000 characters. So I concentrated, I think mine were collaboration and skilled communication. I think it was only 2 that I talked about. So again, it's 2,000 characters is not an awful lot. There's just some examples of the kind of things. There's 4 of them. We've got the other 2 in the next screen, but different types of things different examples that you may have done. Again, a lot of people don't. It's really sitting down and thinking about what you do and thinking, well, I do, you know, I do get pupils to collaborate and so on, but you maybe do it every day, but you don't really think about it. So it's worthwhile having a real good think about the kind of things that you're doing within your classes.
Yeah, and we for this as well, I mean, it talks about a series of lessons or unit or projects. I mean, they're not just looking for one particular lesson. On this one, I did it. It was the example that I gave when I did it was around one particular key area that I was doing with it was mainly senior classes that I have. So it was one particular area with my senior classes that I was talking about and that lesson. And I think, like you, Ros, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 of the areas from the 21 CLD. And I know, Ros, you'll have talked a little bit about the Learn site.
Yep.
Have you talked about that yet? Yeah. So you'll have done the 21 CLD course anyway, so you should be familiar with all aspects of it there. And it's about picking out a couple of them from the rubric and saying, well, how is it that I'm building in real world problem solving? How am I building in, their IT skills or their collaboration? And it was collaboration and IT skills actually that I picked up on mine and talked about it there. And that doesn't necessarily have to be, you'll see when we come into the other questions, the one that you use for your artifact. You don't have to actually do that. You can talk about something and then talk about something else and give an example elsewhere.
Yep, again, that's from a session that Amanda and I did, and that was people's suggestions for examples of things that they'd done. There's quite a few sort of projects there, and things that like the rights, respect and award and their eco-school submission. That's obviously some things that take a long time to put together, and everybody would be working together in that one. So they came up with quite a few different things. I think Spitfire Technologies was actually a particular project that one school were doing. So there's lots of examples there of your 21 CLD.
I think that's a slightly different slide I'm at, Ros, there. That's just the real world problem solving ones and the...
Was it not caught up yet?
No, I don't think it's caught up yet.
Right, because I'm on to the 21 CLD. Examples.
It's got examples, yeah, real world problem solving and innovation. Is that the one you've got? Oh no, now it's caught up.
Oh, right. Now I've got a press back. It'll probably flick back to that. So that's 21 CLD now. Yeah, that's the different ideas that people had, or the different examples that people gave for what they were doing in their classes.
Yeah, and I think the example that I talked about was, people that know me know I'm quite a big fan of the microbits, and that's what I'd done. We took a real world problem. We talked about how the kids were having to collaborate within the working in their groups to come up with the solving that problem, and then they then had to go on and present it, so the communication skills at the end with it. So that was something that it wasn't just a lesson or two. It was much, much bigger than that. So there's various different options there. I've noticed there's a Minecraft build there as well. And it might be that you then want to use that as your artifact later on. So there's lots of different things that you can choose from here, and just pick a couple of the 21 CLD parts in there to talk about. Otherwise, you'll be there for days trying to fill it in.
I know, I remember somebody saying, "Oh, I can't fit it all into 2000," and I said to them, "You can't. There's no way you would fit all 6 in. You do need to just choose a couple of them. Probably the 2, that you think they're the sort of more prominent ones within your whatever you've done, whatever work that you've done. But don't try, because I think if you tried to do all of them, you would end up not saying very much about each part of it, and it maybe wouldn't come across very well. So probably concentrating in 2 is better than trying to pick all of them.
And the 21 CLD has been updated recently. I mean, I know Becky's done that, and I always try and think about when the kids have got to produce something. Is there any way to make it, more authentic in terms of who they're presenting that information to? Is it just me? Are they doing it to each other? If it's a sway, are you putting it out on maybe the school blog or inside a newsletter? It just gives them an authentic audience there. And again, that's all part of that 21 CLD. And it's just being aware of that when you're picking the lesson to talk about, or the topic or project that you're talking about.
Okay, can you see long questions 3?
Yes.
Yes, good. So question 3 is about a learning artefact from a project that your class have done. Now, the artefact has to be somewhere that can be shared publicly. This is one of the issues that the people who will look at your form, if the if it's not accessible, if the URLs are not accessible, they'll basically just not go any further. They'll say that that's it. They won't contact you and say, I can't see whatever. It will just, your application will go no further. So you have to provide that, and it might be in one, you might have put something in OneDrive and share it publicly. It might be in if you've got a public blog in the media library, it doesn't have to be on your blog, but if it's in your media library, you could share the URL. Or what I like doing best is actually putting things in a sway, because we can share them with anyone, and there's no doubt. You can check fairly easily if your sway is shared with anyone. There's absolutely no doubt to it at all. It's not like changing a setting in OneDrive and then worrying about it. So I tend to use sway for sharing things. So what you'd be talking about there is what the artefact is and how it demonstrated the learning objectives and what Microsoft tools that you used. So it's a tangible result of the student learning. It's something that you could pick up in real life. And as it said, we'll now have a wee look at some of the examples of an artefact.
And when I did this with my one, I taken a lesson that I did with my hires, and what they'd had to do was they'd had to go onto a OneNote, and we actually had embedded in there, we had a little simulation embedded into the OneNote. So they went into the OneNote, it was about nerve transmission. They went through the simulation. We then had some questions on the OneNote that they had to fill in. So I had a screenshot of the OneNote page that the students, an example of one of the students' work, so they could see where what they'd been doing. And what the students also had to do was they also had to create a little video on Flipgrid to explain what they'd learned about how a nerve impulse is generated and how it's transmitted. So they did that on Flipgrid. I didn't actually share the kids' Flipgrids there, but what I did was I took a screenshot of the Flipgrid. So you could share a couple of videos. I think I shared maybe one video that the kids had done, but I also took a screenshot so they could see on there, well, what was it that the kids were having to do? What were they having to produce? And then they could see that there was, 10 kids' videos on my Flipgrid, and they were able to see one of them. I did share one of them. And that was my artefact. I then just pasted them all and the link and everything onto a Word document. And then I kept the Word document in my OneDrive and then shared an anyone link, which I checked in the incognito browser to make sure that you could, that anybody could access it, and then they could see that learning. So that was the example of what I was doing, and then what the objective was that the students had to be able to understand how a nerve impulse was generated and what the process was that they'd gone through there. And there's lots of different artifacts that you can choose.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I think thinking back to a few years ago, I did, mine was on staff training, and I had got them, I always do an evaluation form at the end. And the form that it was NQTs, and I'd asked them to, we were actually looking at accessibility, and I asked them to what they'd done. It wasn't immediately after the evaluation, wasn't immediately after training. It was after a wee while. They were told to go and do something with what they had learned, and the form was telling me what they'd done, what particular tool they'd used and how successful it had been, and so on. And that's what I used for my artefact, was a form that they had, the results of the form that they had answered. But there are lots and lots of different things there. I know quite a lot of people. I've seen quite a few people with screenshots of like OneNotes and so on. So there's lots and lots of different. I think that kind of spooked people at first when the application changed about what an artefact actually was. But there's so many different things it can be, testimonials and so on, to anything, to your training, to whatever. You could record people's testimonials about what, how you've done in training or something like that, what they've learned from you. So lots of different examples. And again, this was what Amanda and I got when we did the session earlier on this year, was kind of ideas of what they did. There's Wakelet links and thing links and so on that we hadn't really, maybe we didn't have in the shop before. But there's lots and lots of different things that that you could use as your artifact.
And it's also how the Microsoft tools are possibly integrating with other tools as well. It's a Microsoft application, but you could be talking about how, the students are maybe accessing something through Teams and then they're going on to something else and then they're coming back to a OneNote. So you might find that they're looking at different applications there to show the evidence, and then how you show that evidence to somebody. And as Ros says, she did it with a form. It could be that it's a form of the responses that you got from students. Show the form and show the responses that you've got from it. Lots of different ways. Don't be spooked out by that artifact. It's just to show what students or the learners have produced.
Okay, so question 4 is asking about how you've supported your own learning and also how you've supported the learning of your colleagues. And it then goes on to ask you to describe the activities that you did and how it has resulted in better. So what's the impact been? These are sort of examples of what you would do, what you've done for yourself. And obviously, well, the first thing I suppose that would come to mind is that you've done learning paths on Learn, that you've talked. And again, don't worry about this, because not everybody can go and speak at a conference, but you shared your knowledge. It might be that you tweet out stuff, just wee tips and things. I know lots of people tweet out wee videos or wee short videos or screenshots and things of things that they're doing. So have you spoken at a staff meeting? Have you attended a conference? Even sharing knowledge, like as Sarah said, with just 1 or 2 people. It doesn't have, it could be, a quick chat in the staff room that you're explaining something to somebody. Have you been to online conferences? There's lots of things during the year. There's E2, for example. There's lots and lots of Microsoft things on throughout the year. Have you been to any online conferences and webinars, and possibly in-person conferences as well? Now we can say that. And also, have you taken any formal certifications? And I know Education Scotland produced or provided rather vouchers to do the MCE and the MOS exams. I think they've done that a couple of times this year. So have you taken any of these formal exams?
And I think, in Scotland with this one, we're quite lucky because we do have our own CPD log that goes to the GTCS. So there'll be stuff on there as well. It's how, what have you done to improve your knowledge? It could be that, as Rose says, any conferences, webinars that you've taken part in. Did you come along to events? Have you joined something like this? Have you joined any of the other Tablet Academy sessions that we've been doing, and you've picked something up from that? And then the impact that's then had on the learners. So what have you learned, and then how have you then put that into the classroom or with the learners that you're using? And we do it all the time. We do it all the time, and you can talk about various different ones, and it won't be, you'll probably find you don't need to talk about a couple of things that you've done, but the impact that's then had to the learners that you're working with.
Yeah, and again, there's some more examples from our session earlier on this year, like chats in the base.
We're still waiting for that to catch up.
Yeah, okay. It's just sort of informal things like chats to people in the base, chats in the staff room, drop-in ICT sessions. I know quite a lot of schools do this, where they have, I know one school have what they call a Tech Tuesday, and they've got a half-hour drop-in ICT session after work that people can go along to, and they're just told one particular thing, just showing one particular thing to do. You could be sharing at your departmental meeting, supporting colleagues in all sorts of different ways. What else? Can you see that yet, Sarah?
Yeah, it's came up now. And as you said, the supporting your colleagues as well. I mean, this one is two-stranded. I kind of forgot about the colleagues, but it is that idea of what have you done to enhance your learning, and then how are you supporting other people? And I think sometimes people think that this one, well, I've not done any sessions, I've not presented at things. But you'll have had maybe a conversation, as you said, at your departmental meeting with people.
Yep.
You've maybe gone along and helped a colleague to set up their teams, or how to put the students into their teams, so that they've then gone on and done it with their pupils. It's not something you've maybe shared at a local event or a national event. You've maybe been at the Scottish Learning Festival and you shared something there. But it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. You don't have to be doing, formal training sessions all the time. Bearing in mind, people that are filling this in just now are probably applying to be an MIE expert for the first time. You've got some people that are on that programme for 7-8 years that, yes, they're presenting online and they're attending big sessions, but we all started off doing small sessions. I worked with a couple of people within the department and just shared all the time with what I was doing, and it was only 2-3 people in the first year that I was doing it with. That's all part in how you're helping your colleagues, supporting your colleagues to use digital technology in their classrooms.
Yep. I think the other thing there, and this is out of date now, but the percentage of staff that are MIEs, so the percentage of staff that are Microsoft educators, have you supported people to do their Microsoft Educator badge or their Microsoft Advanced Educator? Have you pointed them in the direction of the courses that they need to do in order to achieve that badge? So, or it may be that you have, you've maybe encouraged people to become MIEs in the past, because obviously the educator, that just changed in the last couple of months. So have you supported people to do that and just encourage them to go along or go online and complete some courses? So just anything at all that you're doing in order to support. And as Sarah said, we all started off very, very small. And it's not everybody that's spoken to, or not everybody even that would want to speak to a conference or a large group of people. So just anything at all there. Okay, so now we come to the top tips, the sort of things that you need to remember.
Catch up.
Okay, things that we've got to remember in order to complete an application successfully.
I mean, one of the first things I would say is when you go on to the Learn website, and you download that Word document, and the Word document's got links as well to other things that can support you when you're doing it. Sit down with that Word document and fill in as much as you can in preparation for it. You can save as you go along, but obviously you kind of have to save as you go along and then submit it all in a winner. At the end, all those long questions. And when I did mine, I kind of filled in question 1 first of all, and then I did question 4 because I found those kind of the easiest ones to do for me. And then I was sitting and looking at the lessons in the artifact. I didn't do it all in one sitting. And the Word document was really helpful for that, for me to go through, because I knew what they were going to ask and how I was going to do it. That's the top tips up now, Roz.
Yeah. I think when we've talked about that, Sarah had mentioned that about pasting your URL to your artifact into an incognito or private browser, just to make sure that it's actually accessible by people. And remember, I said earlier on, sort of quite near the beginning, your answer for full Office 365, not Glow, because it's a global application, and obviously it's only Scottish people that have got, or Scottish teachers, educators that have got Glow. So you're answering for the whole Office, the global Office 365, not just Glow. Again, I mentioned about putting your answers into a Word document. Make sure you check the end of it so that it's not chopped a word or two off, and it means that your sentence doesn't make sense at all. It isn't a test, and it's about your successes over the past year. And again, this is something that I do when I've filled in this application over the years. I always go to Twitter. I always go back, because it's amazing what you forget. If you record what you do in Twitter, then it's a really, really good, or as Sarah said, your GTCS, your training there, go and look, or if you've got some kind of training, some sort of tool in your authority that records your training, go and look and see what you did, because it's absolutely amazing what you'll forget. because it is over a year and it is quite a long time. And also the save progress button, I think, is really important. This is something that I've always told people over the years, regardless of what kind of online system you're using. Many systems will time out. Now, I don't know how long. I know some systems time out quicker than others, and I don't know. I would not like to even guess at what the timeout is, how many minutes you're on, but constantly use that save progress button to make sure that you don't lose anything. And as Sarah said, use the document, and I mentioned that earlier on. Record your answers in that Word document, because if you do have to resubmit, and it's not just a case of going back in and editing, it's a resubmission. Now you've got to start a new nomination. So you don't want to lose anything, say your long answers, you don't want to lose all that. So keep a note of them, so that you do have them there. Be patient, you won't hear anything until February. It is quite a long time, it seems quite a long time away, before you hear whether you've been successful or not. So it's obviously with Christmas holidays and so on. I think the summer application seems to be a bit kind of quicker. The other thing is, I think I'm right in this, Sarah, if you do apply for MIEE just now, you would have to apply again next summer. It's not a year to year.
The main application takes place it's between May and the beginning of July is the main application window. This application window that they have in November and December isn't actually open globally. It's only open to some countries across the world, the UK being one of them. So you would be expected to put in another application come by July, but you would be applying as a returning MIE expert rather than a first-time one. So the process is a little bit less. I would say it's probably a little bit easier to do. You don't need as much there from that. So just being aware, you would be asked. So you find out in February, and then you're like, oh man, it's May. I've got to start applying again. But you probably, what you would do, it would be a lot of the same stuff that first year. Where you're just putting in, maybe a little bit extra or something like that to your application from what you already did. So you would just be extending the application that you put in for November rather than creating something completely new that's in there. And in terms of the community aspect, we know now that we have to do our Microsoft Educator and our Advanced Educator within the Learn community, and I think that's been a really good thing to put in for people that want to make that step up from what was a certified MIE that they had before, that Advanced Educator program in there. But myself, Rose, you've been on it for many years. I need to keep adding mine up. I think I'm now on year 9 of being an MIE expert, and I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination at all. But it's been one of the best. It's a learning community, professional learning community of people, and it really is so helpful when you're looking for answers to something. You've not only got that Scottish community, you've got the UK community, and then you've got a global one. And the example I always give is, if I've got a problem with my tech or an answer that I need, that I'm looking for, I just need to ask that global community at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and when I get up for work on the Wednesday morning, somebody's answered it, and then I can go in and sort that then. And it's amazing how helpful they are, and what you can learn from each other. You get the advantage of being able to go to the UK connection calls. We have our Scottish ones as well. There are global calls as well. You get to network with people. You find people that are, like-minded and a wee bit kind of tech geeky like me as well, wanting to know a little bit more about how something works. But it's a community where people are not there saying, I'm really good at this and you're not. That's not what it's about. It's people saying, do you know what? I use this in my class and I don't think this is anything special. And everybody looks at and goes, that's amazing. I never thought about that. That's great. And you take it away, and everything that I go to, whether that is an online event, whether that's an in-person event, I come away with something that goes into my classroom the next again that week. I've been lucky enough that I've been able to attend events that Microsoft have invited me to learn from, to present at as well. And being able to meet these people as well that, from online that you're sharing with, and then be able to go to an event that they're at as well. It's how I first met Roz. We were at an event. In fact, the last time we went down to London, Roz was sitting in the hotel next to me, and I just chapped on the window and gave her a wee wave. I said, "Hiya, I've not seen you for ages." And there's people there that are willing to help. And if you're in a school where you are maybe on your own, or you're a small school and there's not a lot of people that are doing the digital, and you just want to know what you can do and how you can help and how you can move it forward, there's lots of people that are willing to help you on that journey. We talk about the journey, but it's a community that for me has been instrumental in getting me to where I am just now, and what we are doing as a school as well, not just me as a teacher, but how we're getting on as a school. Most of the ideas are coming from what I'm hearing from other people across the UK and across the globe.
Yeah, I think I would totally echo your sentiments there. I just think the community is amazing, and particularly, I think we all came together really well during lockdown as well. The first lockdown, we used to meet every Friday, and it was a bit of a social event, but it was also a learning thing as well, because somebody would always present and say, "Oh, I've been doing this, I've been doing that." It was a really, really good way to learn, and it's great now that we can meet up in real life, but it's an absolutely amazing community to learn from, and everybody is friendly. Lots of people are on Twitter, lots of people, you can contact them various ways. You see something on Twitter, maybe DM them and say, "Can you tell me a bit more about that?" And everybody's really, really willing to share and help out. So it is a really good professional learning community.
And there is, you can go on to Twitter and you can look for the hashtag MIE Expert, and that's used globally by everybody. We've also got our own Scotland one, which is hashtag Team MIEE Scotland, and you just go through there and you see what people are sharing, and we try and encourage people to use that just so that we can see everything that's happening on it. And any of the MIE experts that are on the programme just now, if you're thinking about applying and not sure whether or not you want to, I would say apply. Like, do it. You find out what it's about, find out what the benefits are for you. You get out of the programme as much as you put in. The more you put in, the more you get out from it. Although there's never any expectation, I think, to that you have to be doing this, that you have to be doing that. Sometimes if schoolwork gets a little bit too much and you can't attend an event, nobody's going to turn around and kick you off the programme. That's not what it's about. It's about supporting, and it's about how you're developing yourself in digital learning across your school or across your local authority, wherever it is that you're working. And myself and Roz, if you've got any questions around your application, then please reach out to us. We're happy to help and help with any of the questions, or if you're not too sure, or if you want us to have a little look at your artifact, you can. Somebody pushed me to do that 9 years ago. I don't know if Annette's, I've not seen Annette for a long time, but Annette pushed me to go on it. She said, "Listen, you do this, you should have a look at this programme." And I'm so glad she did, and somebody pointed it out to me. So yeah, if you're thinking about it, do it.
Definitely worthwhile. One of my staff was really unsure and needed quite a wee bit of persuasion to do it, but he did it and he got it, and he was absolutely shocked that he achieved it, but you shouldn't have been shocked. But I think it's just the kind of self-doubt thing, but certainly I would recommend going for it as well.
And don't feel you have to be expert. I think that phrase expert is there. You're doing stuff in your classroom that is amazing. We're all doing stuff in the classroom that's amazing. And then you'll learn more things from it that you can put into your classroom. So yeah, I'd recommend anybody. And as I said, happy to help as and when. And I think that was 4:59, it says.
I know, we've done it. So good luck to everybody who's going to make an application. I hope you're successful, fingers crossed, and thank you very much for listening to us today.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you on the programme in February when it comes out. Take care.